Yes, it was. It was love at first play, actually. About 8 years ago, I was presented with the opportunity to use one of the violins from the Peter and Sarah Mandel collection of Southern California. I was at the time a senior at the University of Southern California, studying with Robert Lipset, and I had just won the concerto competition for the school, and I was very excited to perform Brooks' violin concerto with the university orchestra. And about 2 weeks before the performance, my teacher, Robert Lipset, who had a very close relationship and still does with the Mandels, told me that a violin had just become available. And I was actually familiar with this violin because it belonged to a student also from the studio whose playing I admired so much. And I was honored, a little bit scared, to take this violin in just a couple of weeks before, at the time, was my probably biggest performance of my life so far. So this violin, this 1709 Alessandro Galliano, beautiful Italian instrument, came into my hands. And I'm lucky to actually own a very good violin by Romeo Antoniazzi, but this Galliano was in a different league. It is in a different league. I wouldn't say immediately I became a different violinist, but it was the beginning of a relationship that is still ongoing today that has definitely changed and shaped who I am as a violinist. That violin helped me with not only that very first performance with the Brooks Violin Concerto, which was very memorable because it was with conductor Carl St. Clair, who is the conductor of the Pacific Symphony from Orange County, which is actually my hometown. So I was playing this new violin, this new old violin, with a conductor I had grown up admiring, and with my colleagues on the stage. It was a very special concert, and the Mandels were there in the audience as they attend many of their young violinists' concerts. It was a special moment, and since then I've had a lot of special performances because of this fabulous violin. Like any violin, it's kind of a living thing. It grows and it shapes with you as a violinist. Immediately when I first started playing it, I was simply shocked by the amount of sound it was able to make under my ear. It was a much clearer sound than what I was used to, and after hearing others actually play it in a hall, and from getting feedback from my own teacher, hearing me play it in a hall, the feedback was that it was extremely good at projecting, which was important to me because soloing with orchestra is something I love to do, and I have done many, many times with this violin successfully because it does have great projection. The feel of it, a violin is an extension of ourselves if we're doing it right, if we're playing it in a proper way that maximizes the sound without crushing the violin or trying to tame it into doing what we want. If we let the violin sing, it can do pretty amazing things. I would say it's taken me a few years to really make this violin kind of my own. And now I actually, just before I got on the phone with you, I just put my violin down in its case over here. I'm looking at it right now. I just had an adjustment to the violin, so actually it's sounding really good right now. I'm really happy with it. Like I said, violins are living things, and they change with humidity and dryness and temperature. And, if your bridge is just a little tilted one way, the sound post doesn't quite connect and vibrate. All the resonance of the violin up and out through the F holes. So things really have to be just right to get the sound that that you want from the violin, and that it's capable of giving. when I was really young, I had a teacher who told me, when you master the violin, you won't even notice it's there. And at the time, it was kind of an upsetting comment because I was extremely uncomfortable playing the violin when I was young. I was doing a lot of things wrong, and there was no way I wasn't going to notice the violin was there. It was this big piece of furniture under my neck. But I see what he means, and that moment when I really connected with this violin, this Galliano in particular, you know it's right when you actually don't feel the violin in your hands, and rather you feel like you're singing. The violin is a vehicle for our voice. It takes years and years and years just to get the violin out of the way. Ultimately, all musicians, our goal is to be singers with our instruments, and a great violin is not clumsy. It doesn't get in your way. It doesn't squawk when you when you do something just a little bit differently. A great violin is very flexible and like I said, a part of your body, almost another limb. And I think I knew that this violin was the right violin when I was on stage for the first time, feeling as if I was just standing there and singing a beautiful aria to the audience, although they definitely would not want to actually hear me sing. I don't have a singer's voice, but I try to make these sounds through my violin as if I am. It is a very, very different part of my personality, I guess. When I have the violin in my hand, you become at the same time an artist, you become a clinician, you become a scientist, experimenting and trying all kinds of things. When you have a problem, you're trying to solve it. Your brain is just working constantly. And sometimes when I'm practicing, sometimes I find myself zoning out a little bit or thinking about other things that I have to do in my day or thinking about something I need to talk to a student about. And then I find that my practicing doesn't become nearly as productive. But yes, it's definitely, I'm a different person when I'm playing the violin. I think most people are, and I think that's a healthy thing. I think it's like being an actor on stage. But even when you're practicing, I think we are a little bit of a different person. I don't think there's anything else that we do in our lives that our day-to-day lives that require the same kind of care and intimacy and problem-solving. If you ask my husband, I'm definitely very different with violin than I am with life skills. I've broken off many a side mirror on my car, but never broken off a peg on my violin because I take great care with the violin. But I find myself actually sometimes a little bit clumsier in real life than I am with my violin. What would I tell my violin? I trust it very much, and I also need it very much, and that I'm inspired by it. I don't know. That's a really tough question. I feel like if anything, my violin is more talking back to me. But I guess I would say very nice things to my violin now at this point in my life. Throughout my life in different stages, I would probably say other things to the violin, like, why are you doing this to me? You're making my life so much harder than it has to be. But now I guess I would look at it and say, thank you for everything you've brought me in my life, for all the people that you've brought into my life, for the confidence that you've built inside of me as a person, as a violinist. And thank you for all these great memories from pieces that we've learned together and explored together. And we've been on this long road trip now for, as I said, over 8 years. And I look forward to seeing what the next years have to bring in our relationship. I guess something like that.